Hello and welcome to the most violent video game podcast on the internet. Pow, 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 pow. Mass Reflect, the podcast where we go back and talk about the deep politics of Mass Effect Trilogy. I am your host, Master Supreme, Rob.
I'm unsubscribing from this podcast. I was the co-host of Mass Reflect, a podcast about Mass Effect and sort of its internal politics in relation to our historical politics. But I guess...
And our conversation about Mass Effect is gonna blow your ass cheeks wide open.
Alright, again...
Kapow!
Already hit unsubscribe. No longer am affiliated with this podcast that is now about blowing people's ass cheeks wide open.
Those are 3 more ass cheeks blown open right there.
Oh.
I don't know if that's 1.5 persons worth of ass cheeks or 3 persons ass cheeks, you know, now that I think about it.
Yeah,
The syntax on that was ambiguous.
It really was, which was the most upsetting part. But so yeah, this is Mass Reflect.
Yeah.
And I'm your co-host, Beatrice, or B.
I think we covered all of that information. I think my intro pretty much serves it.
Yeah, no, yeah, I should have
and I have,
but I had a visceral reaction.
I have control over the final edit.
Amazing. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of explosions, maybe some air horns. It's gonna...
Oh, there's definitely gonna be an air horn right now. Also, there are air horns earlier.
Yeah.
That I'm going to add.
This has a very WWE feel to it, if I'm honest.
I was going for like a monster truck thing myself.
Alright, that too. I don't think those are as distinct as perhaps I should.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a commercial for the WWE, now that I think about it.
I can't remember if I do have either. Well.
Yeah. So. We thought we were going to talk about the end of Mass Effect because we thought we'd be able to play through to the credits and then re-enter the game to wrap up side quests. I played through the credits and found out that is not the case.
Yes. And I selfishly was like, oh, well, then I want to do side quests, because...
I had to load an old save to go back and play all of the side quests.
That is such a bummer.
Which is a bummer because it means that like none of my side quest progression is going to carry over to the save. I'm going to bring in Mass Effect 2.
Or you could just replay the last mission.
It probably would be a smart idea for me to do that because I now played that like 2 weeks ago or something. So
yeah, no, I think you should just do it. Bite the bullet. I'm sorry, Rob.
I might be fairly stale on it, so it might be a good time to go back and revisit. Doing the final Citadel sequence doesn't bother me as much as having to go back and replay Ilos bothers me.
God, I'm dreading Ilos because I remember that being a slog back then.
It is a slog right now. And what's funny is it's not even as difficult as it used to be. So, you know, because that's like the one thing we've noticed. But Ilos, we'll talk about it when we get there, is definitely the longest level that they have designed. But it's like, it's kind of that thing where it's like, well, because you're going to have to wait through multiple elevators. And, you know, there's a long corridor shooter sequence followed by a long Mako shooter sequence without anything to break it up. And then there's a timed Mako sequence.
Oh, that sounds like hell.
Which isn't too bad, but like I don't think what the Mako needed was a race sequence essentially, you know.
Yeah, I don't think the Mako needs a race sequence at all.
Yeah.
Or
I'm not
any
e-
kind of like competitive driving thing in RPGs in general.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of stuff. Final Fantasy X.
It's not competitive, but it is something where like you're on a timer and it just does it feels bad.
That's
You
kind
know?
of what I mean, because that's what
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
RPGs can accomplish. But it's so bad.
Yeah. I don't know why. I guess that was like the 2000s was like, damn, we need to make RPGs be 7 different things at once. And I like that we are now at a point where it's like, no, let's just do isometric RPGs again. That's what was good.
Yeah, for some things, that is true. For others, it's like, yeah, no, we should just make simulation games that we'll call RPGs.
Yeah, that's true. We'll just put RPG elements in everything now. I think
I'm
I
cool
would
with
want
all of these changes. Just
Yeah.
for the record, I like it.
RPGs are better now.
Yeah.
I think. I used to think not because I used to think, well, there's nothing like Mass Effect. But let me tell you, having played through Mass Effect and then going and playing a lot of like Baldur's Gate 3 and stuff, RPGs are better now.
Yeah, no, I've been on the train that RPGs are better. I was craving like a sci-fi RPG, but weirdly Mass Effect is kind of scratching that itch, but not in the way I thought it would be.
I feel like what I want from A Knights of the Old Republic 3 is something closer to Baldur's Gate 3 than to Mass Effect. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would actually prefer... I'd be fine... I want an isometric Star Wars RPG. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Or even maybe what Knights of the Old Republic is, which is an isometric RPG that's just brought in.
Yeah.
Because
Totally.
that's really how Mass Effect is structured too, I've realized.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, basically, every Mako map is like the Baldur's Gate maps, where there's like stuff on
Yeah, 100%.
and you can... There's stuff on it,
Yeah.
and you can, like, go to those locations and do the things, but there's nothing, like, very special about any of the areas. They're just different colored maps. Sorry, I interrupted you, I think.
No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, totally, 100%. Like, having gone back and played some Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 recently, especially because, like, the level design, one of the things that bothered me about Hylos is that I did not particularly care for the level design either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and the levels in Mass Effect 1 just don't make good use of, like, 3D space in a meaningful way. You know?
No, I think I had less of an appreciation for that when I preferred Mass Effect 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited now about 2's more linear approach, mostly because I'm like, okay, you guys can do that, okay, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited to play a competent third-person shooter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I know Mass Effect 2 is going to be that.
And I know Mass Effect 3 is in some ways even better.
Yeah.
And apparently, I did not know.
Are we ready? Are we ready to think that Mass Effect 3 is the best Mass Effect game?
Are
Have
we
we prepared
ready?
ourselves mentally for that?
Yeah, no, I've prepared myself mentally for that.
Because
I
the
feel
more
like I feel like what I'm going to love about it though is everything that like is still will make me hate the ending, you know?
Yes, I feel like what I'm going to hate, what is going to bother me about Mass Effect 3 is I'm actually going to like how it pays off on the themes that Mass Effect 1 brings up in the background. Whereas it bothered me at the time that it did that because at the time I was more interested in the things that were in the foreground because that was what Mass Effect was telling me to be interested in. But like as I played through Mass Effect 1, I'm less interested. I don't care about the Reapers. I care about, this history of galactic politics a lot more. I don't know if but like I know the ending is this good. But that's the thing is like I cared about the genophage when I played Mass Effect 3. I guess
what I actually
don't know.
think is I think I'm going to just discover that my problem with Mass Effect and the reason why I've never really been able to like square my opinions of the series as a whole is that I've never really liked the Reapers on some level.
Yeah.
Or I never really thought that they worked, and I never did think that they were consistent across the series, and that
I guess that's the
remains true.
thing, right? We talked about this a little bit on our Vermeer episode, but
Yeah.
like, I guess I should have reworded. I said that like I cared more about that. I cared more about the conflicts that made central, right? Like I cared
Yes.
about in Mass Effect 3. I cared about the Genophage. I cared about the Geth, but I often felt like everything got wrapped up with a pretty bow on it. You know what I mean? And I felt like Mass Effect 3 was the end of a universe that I thought was like still that I still want the Mass Effect tabletop role playing game. You know what I mean? Like I still want the space. I still want side games in this series.
You know what? It's not even that I want side games. It's that I want what I want Mass Effect 3 to be is like a revelation that the Reapers were some kind of psyops. And that, like, it's all an actual battle between, like, Solarians and Asari and Turians. And I know that it's not that. I know that it's...
It's not that. Yeah.
I know
That's
that
what
it
we
will
want.
never be that.
We're going to be discussing Bring Down the Sky.
Yes.
Which much like No Man's Sky, I keep on thinking is bring down this guy, not the sky.
Yeah, we're also going to be discussing, semi-briefly, a article from The Gamer, which is called Mass Effect Modders Are Restoring Cut Missions About Hanart Wars, Mandalorian planets, and more.
I mean, I feel like it's crazy how much Mass Effect 1 is crazy in that it definitely feels like, damn, let's do... Like, yeah, we want to do our own original IP, but also we really liked the Mandalorians that we introduced in Knights of the Old Republic 1.
We loved those Mandalorians. We loved Firefly. We loved Babylon 5. What if Babylon 5 was...
And Battlestar Galactica were in the same universe, guys.
And also Firefly. What if all of these things were in the mix?
And there's at least 8 planets that are aliens.
You know what? I won't lie to you. That actually would be a pretty sweet series.
I mean, yeah, there's I think, again, like, the version of this that doesn't have... The version of this that is more like Star Trek, where you're just bopping around this universe without this overarching threat, is a far more interesting game.
Yeah, especially because you're not playing an altruistic, super genius... empath who's like, I want to do what's best for people. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you could play that, but like, you're not... The agencies that you're working for are not going to do that. They're not nice.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm an Alliance Marine. Oh god, thank you. You're the heroes, right? Absolutely. What happened?
Yeah, we're the heroes. We're gonna free you from freedom.
We're gonna free you. Amazing. Actually, the entire colony was slaughtered. It's just me and this 16-year-old child. Awesome, we can use a new Marine. Wait, what? I'm too old to be a Marine. I'm a 60-year-old woman. No, the child.
Well, what's gonna happen to me? You're gonna go into processing. Gotta get that meat for that Citadel. We all have a place in the Alliance.
We all have a place in the Alliance. I have a place in the
killed
Alliance.
my grandmother.
I
know, child. And now I'm going to teach you to kill other people's grandmothers.
No.
Here's a gun.
No, that's not how this commercial ends. Like, the child is, like, shown training with all these people who, like, turn to the camera and say, I have my place with the Alliance. And then at the very end, the child is
Would you like to know more?
Plant, is greeting his grandmother, and taking, like, a healthy bite and saying, I have my place in the Alliance, too. This is my dark, like, Starship Troopers style commercial.
Yeah, I love it.
Cut out the part where I compare it to Starship Troopers. It's a self-evident comparison.
It's not surprising to me playing the side quests and playing Bring Down the Sky, which is a DLC mission that just feels like it could be any planet.
It's
like side quest. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is the most underwhelming DLC I've ever played.
It is slightly more finished than the side quests are, but it doesn't feel like it is a story mission like in the style of Vermile, Ilos, or Novaria.
No, it
it is literally you going down around another planet and then going to the same generic interiors until you go to the only original interior on these planets that you ever see.
it really highlights how different our expectations of DLC is now, because I think like this was $10 and it was just a mission. And that's because DLC was like this experimental thing that it couldn't be very large because of the internet, and also this wasn't an expansion, it wasn't like a whole thing.
Yeah. It had to be under 250 megabytes to be sold on the Xbox 360 store. So
yeah, and I think they set like the prices more or less in stone, right? Like you couldn't have much. You could like charge, I guess, $5, but I remember it being very like strict increments of like.
It was strict increments. I don't think it was a set in stone from the Xbox, unless if that's something that was never. But like definitely, like I remember when Xbox arcade games went from being $5 to $10, which back then was Microsoft points. So it was like 400 to 800 Microsoft points, and people were upset that they had to spend $10. And then when like Braid went to $15, which is a reasonable price for Braid, like it was people being like, how why would I spend $15 on this game? It should be $5, for. Which is just
for Braid,
people got
which
to eat.
Is people gotta fucking eat.
But this feels like cut content turned into DLC, right? Like that's what.
No, I'm just surprised they didn't turn some of this other cut content into DLC. I'm guessing because they had to do a quick turnaround for Mass Effect 2.
Yeah,
and that was
that's usually how.
And that was
sort
a
of thing
huge
goes.
game.
Yeah, but once they had the technology in, like Mass Effect 2 is like a huge game, but it doesn't it's not built from scratch like Mass Effect 1 was. So they had a lot of the work done, Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair, but still.
So what was cut?
Yeah, that is. So. There were going to be things called global missions, which were apparently massive, sprawling side quests designed to take you all over the galaxy. And they found like some audio for one, which is about a conflict between some Hanar and a group of offshoot Solarians called the Listani, who claim that the Hanar are forcing their culture and religion on them through violent actions. Meanwhile, the Hanar are like talking about how the Listani are using bioweapons to destroy Hanar colonies. And in the Solarian language, Listani means the old blood, which refers to the fact that they opposed integration with other council species hundreds of years ago. Apropos of nothing, do you know what the sort of sequel-ish expansion game to Wolfenstein: The New Order was called, Rob?
The Old Blood, I believe.
Yeah, it was. There's no relation. I mean, I'm sure there's not. It's just a fun coincidence. But still.
Yeah.
Isn't this crazy?
I'm rereading it just because I feel like all that information I had to like
Yeah.
I mean, I could see why this content got cut.
Yeah, no.
From the game.
This is the kind of thing where I'm like, did you think you would have longer to make this game? Did you want this game to like come out when Dragon Age was coming out?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, do you think, because this is the era where you kind of have to put this is at the era where BioWare is on basically on a 2 to 3 year cycle on their 3-year cycle at this point.
Yeah.
Right, and they have 2 teams. That's how you deal with it. It takes longer than that to build the game, especially of these sizes,
Yeah.
Which I know now people would be like, well, they make 100-hour RPGs, And it's like, yeah, but a lot of the content is less bespoke in a 100-hour RPG than it is in a 30-hour RPG. Also, it takes even longer now to make games.
Yep.
Um,
Yes.
which is why some games like Cyberpunk come out the way they do, because the business expectations don't always meet the development demands of the ambition of the game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think that, like, I think that Mass Effect originally is, like, let's just make a universe where you're going around and, you know, exploring planets, because that's what they've wanted to do for a long. That's what they want Mass Effect Andromeda to be as well.
Yes.
This is the concept that has kind of been going on in the BioWare headspace of, we want to make the first true space exploration game, which for the time Mass Effect 100% is.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And now Bethesda wants in on that, I guess, as well, or something.
Yeah, we'll be seeing more about that in 45 minutes, I imagine.
Wait,
which is why we should wrap up this soon so I can go watch that, because I'm curious about that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah.
But yeah, like this feels like a version of this game, where like this is you going around and solving space problems.
Absolutely.
You know? Which is not what the final product of this game is, but definitely is what 2 and 3 feel like. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it does feel like stuff that would be that is more akin to what they have in 3. Gods, I know that I'm just gonna hate the Reaper shit in 3 so much, and other things is gonna be exactly what I want.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting. And this, look, I do want to also pitch the idea that the Lysani are not an actual separatist group, but instead like a stay-behind network that's maybe gone a little rogue.
Yeah, I mean, the Lysani are the Cerberus, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Reading from the description, they're just... There's a lot of reasons why this got cut. One, the weird Nazi stuff, which...
You know what? No, I
which
feel
the first
like...
Mass Effect 1 loves, so I don't think that's why it got cut.
No,
but this very much... This feels like, oh, aren't we also doing this with Cerberus? You know?
It feels like maybe that is why it got cut, but I almost wish it had stayed in then, because I was like, oh... This gets to what I love about Mass Effect, which is it like has a sort of deep or parapolitics without seeming to mean to, which is very exciting and fun for me.
So
yeah,
it also seems like there was some Liara stuff that was kind of...
Well, yeah, you know how Therum is like the worst, not worst, that Therum is like a very truncated planet and like level.
I would say it's the worst of the main storyline planets.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing going on it, whereas every other planet at least has something worth talking about.
Yeah.
You know.
So apparently she was originally on a mining planet called Kaleston, which was very Firefly / The Mandalorian themed, very Wild West.
Yeah. I like that The Mandalorian is starting, because Firefly is not held up.
No.
In a lot of ways. Both, I went back and rewatched a few years ago. Not as good as I remember. And frankly, with the creator Joss Whedon being a very problematic person, it's definitely not held up. So I do like that The Mandalorian is slowly taking over for like the lexicon of Wild West sci-fi.
Yeah. It is a very big improvement. I'm guessing. I've never seen The Mandalorian, and I didn't like Firefly.
I really like The Mandalorian.
Yeah. No, I've only heard good things.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's listened to this podcast knows how much I love Star Wars. I think The Mandalorian is the best Star Wars thing that's been made since the original trilogy.
Wow.
Personally. There's other stuff I love. I'm not like one of those, new stuff haters, but I just think Mandalorian is really, really good.
Awesome. All right. And apparently there's a scene on this planet where you would have been ambushed by a sheriff and a group of assassins who had been paid off by Saren. And there's some cut audio, which was has him like talking to you, and there's some fun lines that I'd like to read.
Yeah.
Commander Shepard, Agent Saren hired us. Not that we like him, it's just business. It's just a business relationship. We got a contract with your name on it. I'd apologize about that, but I'm the sheriff, not the senator. Here's the other one. I don't have anything against Spectres. We pretty much do the same work.
No, I don't think that's true, personally.
I think that's deeply, deeply true. In a funny way.
I think that is how the writers see Spectres. But unless if the sheriff is ethnic cleansing planets with out supervision, we're not doing the same work.
Look, I hate to say this,
I put in the hours in Mass Effect.
In the actual Wild West, the sheriff was very much a part of a sort of ethnic cleansing.
That's true. But I doubt that comes
up
in this game.
You're right, it doesn't come up, but like there's still the colonial and settler implications of it, like explicitly. They use terms like settlers and settlements.
But knowing Mass Effect 1, this is the Firefly version of colonialism, right? Where there are no aliens to force you to face the uglier parts of colonialism. It's just what if we were all good, hardworking people, just trying to get by. Sometimes you got to break the law.
There's also the Outlaw Star version of colonialism, where humans are like the bottom rung of a really terrible totem pole that just has like empires and space cops.
We've talked about this on air, but this is why I'm starting to question whether Avatar, the 2009 film, is as bad as I remember. Because I remember like the complaint being like, "Oh, this is just another like colonial fantasy." But the fact that it's about space colonialization and not real colonialization feels like a commentary on how colonialism is always presented in science fiction, which is great without any pushback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not always. There's obviously, like the word for world is forest by Ursula K. Le Guin. There's plenty of, counter examples, but not in mainstream, not on this level,
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering whether I would go and check out this cut content if it gets restored.
I don't think I would, honestly, but it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It doesn't affect... I don't want it to affect my reading too much just because I don't want to... Because it was cut, it's not canonical to the... It's not what was in the final vision of the game, There's a lot of stuff that gets cut from books and TV shows and games because it's just not it doesn't fit in ultimately. So, which I don't think Wild West Planet would fit into Mass Effect.
No. Wild West Planet was more funny to me. Lysani though fits right in, and I think I'm gonna count that. That's real.
I think that was cut because it's just repetitive.
Yeah, but that's why I like it. It hammers in the themes of this whole stuff. So yeah, let's move on to Bring Down the Sky.
Yeah.
Which
so I think we've already given our general feeling on it, which is that it wasn't great.
No, it's space Die Hard, but presented as just another planet.
It is space Die Hard, and I didn't make that connection.
Well, see, I didn't want to make that connection, but as it went on, I was like, oh no, this is almost beat for beat Die Hard, huh?
Yeah.
It's like how there's a pretty like Starship Troopers side quest that I just got to. It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's space Die Hard. I mean, that's the thing about all of this stuff is like every major quest in this game, you can point at a film and go, okay, this is that.
Yeah.
And
like, Space Die Hard is a fine enough concept. It's also got, I guess, a little element of speed and like Armageddon. There's an asteroid that's coming down to a human planet, in sort of the same
Yeah.
system as Eden Prime.
I mostly thought Armageddon, and I think I've never actually seen Armageddon, but I've seen clips from it, and I think what Bring Down this guy misses as part of it being Space Die Hard is like what makes Die Hard good.
Yeah.
Which is that it has this highly charismatic villain in the form of Alan Rickman.
Yes.
I almost said Alan Moore, and not charismatic at all, unlike Alan Rickman, who was very charismatic.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know anything about Alan Moore. He never strikes me as someone who's charismatic.
I'm not good. He's a guy.
Yeah.
I like his work.
Oh, I like his work. Yeah. I think, I love some of his work, obviously, but, charismatic, I just more mean. You know what I mean. Anyway, this charismatic villain, and, and John McClane, is that the hero of Die Hard? John McClane. Yes.
Yeah, John McClane.
He's a cop, but he's also kind of presented as an everyman. And he's a cop, he doesn't even have shoes. He doesn't have a gun. He's not, super space cop Commander Shepard. He's, crawling through the air ducts because that's, because he's outnumbered and outgunned.
If you wanted this to be Space Die Hard, you should have made this Kate's ex, who was, coming aboard the planet, and you have to play as them, and they don't have the same equipment level, and they only have the pistol. And it's a terrible garbage mission.
Yeah, I weirdly remember, I thought this was, everything in this game, I thought this was more involved, but it literally is just, a cutscene of the ship flying in, and boom, you're in the middle of it, without any preamble.
Yep.
And I would have thought it was something more like a Mass Effect. More like Mass Effect. Well, more like a Die Hard, where it was you show up and then things go wrong.
Yeah.
And, because, this introduces a lot of characters that I just don't care about.
It introduces a lot of characters, and is a really short DLC that doesn't have you talking to them, at all.
At all. Except for the head engineer, who is a trip, and we're going to get into.
He's a trip, but he's also just kind of a drip, a real boring dude.
There was a point where I let the villain go so that I could save the hostages, and he just goes, "Man, that was a hard decision. I can't say I would have made it." And it's you're the one who asked me to save your team. These are people you work with every day, and you would rather them die than let a terrorist go free.
Yeah.
That is your preference.
I think that might be a
you
generic
work with every
line
day.
Because either decision is what he's
Oh,
reacting to.
But it's I just don't know how that is the big Paragon Renegade decision of this DLC, and I just don't know how anybody makes the choice of killing someone who
You actually have to remember that there was a weird ethos of sometimes it's worth it to kill terrorists.
This was full on the war on terror, and we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can't negotiate with terrorists. You negotiate with terrorists as an empire. Ooh, you're fucked.
Yeah. Jesus.
It's fun.
I guess that's the thing, right? So you land on this asteroid as it's plummeting towards the planet, because of a Batarian terrorist act. And Batarians, we've read codex entries on them, but we haven't met them. We haven't talked about those codex entries because we saved it for this.
Yes. And I've got quotes. Want me to read them?
Yes, please do.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if you had more that you wanted to say. I apologize.
No, because I can easily say what I was going to say after we get to it, because it might even be better, because there are details in this that really, that makes that actually felt like the most in-text support of our version of this game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so here's the Batarians. In the early 2160s, the Alliance began aggressive colonization of woods in the Skillian Verge, much to the dismay of the Batarians, who had been developing the region for several decades. In 2171, the Batarians petitioned the Council to declare the Verge a zone of Batarian interest. The Council refused, however, declaring unsettled worlds in the region open to human colonization. In protest, the Batarians closed the Citadel Embassy and severed official diplomatic relations with the Council, effectively becoming a rogue state. They instigated...
Let's pause there.
Oh, sorry.
How does that make them a rogue state?
Because the Citadel space is just people who listen to Council directives. And the Batarians are doing this in protest of a Council directive. So they're obviously a rogue state unwilling to listen to obviously correct opinions.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying. Yeah. They are a rogue state because they defied the Council. That's the
Council's interest. Of it. Yeah, really, like financial interest. Because the reason why the Council doesn't want to close the Skillian Verge off to human colonization is because the Council wants the humans to become invested in Council space, right?
Yeah. No, it is a weird thing where human colonization of the Skillian Verge is treated as like a natural thing. Oh, it's just a place. It's like, but by the weird colonizer logic of this universe, why don't the Batarians have special rights to it? They were already developing it.
Yeah.
The description of the Batarian Batarians here is interesting. It's pirates and slavers.
Yes, the Batarians enslave people.
Yes,
that is something.
This is a fact, but again, I view this all as like in-universe propaganda, and also these games are propaganda films, which is why they highlight how heroic Commander Shepard is, and not what a villain they are.
Yeah. So then they start funneling money, weapons into the criminal organization.
Yes. Again, I don't know that they do, because the Batarians that we meet who are like involved in this are Batarian, one, but also like maybe the pirates are Batarian like fleets.
This felt the most,
or like merch. I don't know. It's PMCs.
This felt the most questionable to me, was the setup, because it just didn't. It felt like what they wanted was... I remembered it as being a Batarians attack. Like, that it was the Batarians who did these attacks, not pirates funded by Batarians.
Yes.
And I'm not sure why. Like, I'm not sure why it's Batarians fund attacks.
Oh,
like,
because pirates
that sets up a Cold War.
More legitimate, even. More legitimate, even, I'm sorry. Like, this is not...
that's true.
These are pirates. These are not people from a sovereign nation...
This is an ideological war, you know.
Well, no, it's like these are not people trying to exert what they see as their like sovereignty. These are pirates, people illegitimate by, again, the laws of Council space.
But what we know that means is that the Batarians cannot actually beat the humans militarily. No, right? Like
they can't.
The humans outclass the Batarians.
Exactly.
Which is important to note for where we're going to go with this. You know?
And also, like, again, pirates could be, like, non-state actors, but people with, like, an economic... or Batarians with an economic interest in the region who want to protect that economic interest.
I mean, there's nothing in here that tells us what even the Batarian system of government
No, there isn't.
Or even... like, other than them having an embassy on the council... Like, what does that mean when we talk about... What are we talking about when we talk about the Batarians? Because when we talk about humans, we're talking about the Alliance. When we talk about... we're talking about the Council. When we're talking about Batarians, we're talking about their fascist protectorate.
The hierarchy.
The hierarchy,
It's literally my nemesis. Sorry.
Like, when we talk about Solarians, we're talking about the deep state. So,
yes.
what are we talking about when we talk about Batarians?
What are we talking about when we're talking about about Batarians?
That's my new movie.
Yeah.
What we talk about when we talk about Batarians?
That's my new mostly deeply tragic but occasionally comedic series of realistic short stories, a collection of realistic short stories. This was a Raymond Carver joke that I don't think landed.
I love there's a technology translation codex entry you have
Yes,
here, which is
yes.
even the Batarians,
Yes,
who isolated themselves from galactic society nearly 2 decades ago, take pains to provide up-to-date glossaries and linguistic rules. Though most suspect this is only so they can continue exporting propaganda. Like
the propaganda,
that
which I'm guessing like the news sources,
Like,
which might be
that's not why
propaganda, but it's like, dude, that's not.
But that's not why the Batarians are doing it. The Batarians are doing it because they still rely on galactic commerce,
Yes.
right? Like because they still we call them a rogue state, but the reality is they are just as much of a state as any other state in this galaxy.
It means that they need probably that more than anyone else because they need shady people to have like access to this info because they probably need to use shady sources to get stuff that they like need just to keep people alive because that's how like it works in real fucking life when because I'm guessing they have sanctions on them or at least like
I mean they're a rogue state.
Yeah,
why
absolutely
like
that's
you
cannot
cannot trade with
implies.
Batarians. Yeah I mean that's why Batarians are doing these pirate activities,
absolutely,
because that is the only way that they can get these resources.
Yeah, this is why they
whether that's because they're paying them or they just are the pirates themselves, which is never particularly clear.
Absolutely.
In this series.
Nope. I mean, I think it gets clearer in Mass Effect 2.
Yeah. Because we see more of them.
Yeah.
And Mass Effect 2 is more interested in characterizing non-council species in a viewpoint that isn't just council-centric. Because again, Mass Effect 1, you are fully invested in council propaganda.
Yes. There's like a side quest on this planet, which is just you running around and collecting basically the dog tags of dead scientists.
Yeah. Because you meet the head engineer and
yes.
he's like, hey, can you find my team? So you go and you find his dead team.
Yeah, and I thought at least like one would be alive, but nope. It was just a huge bummer. Yeah, and you just like each point of this mission is very generic and kind of boring.
Yeah.
You drive to like the prefab little settlement facilities that they have here. You shut off a thruster, you drive to the next one, you shut off a thruster, you drive to the next one, you shut off a thruster. I will say like the skyboxes are really nice now.
Yeah, it looks good in some of its design. Totally.
Yeah,
you know.
And like I liked actually the last settlement. It had like a unique layout that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I wish more of them had that.
I wish we had more of that.
Yeah, and
I
had,
was
like some Altair 3 like just machinery working in the background, and there was like a tree growing in the center. It was interesting.
It was like, man, what if there was a game where all of the levels you went to were bespoke original places rather than these kind of procedurally generated areas?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that would be...
What game would that be?
It's not quite Mass Effect 2, but it's close. It's closer.
Yeah. It feels like a half step towards Mass Effect 2.
Yes. And then we meet Bollock. And I've got, again, some quotes. So, here's Shepard says a fun thing, which is, let the hostages go and maybe you'll live long enough to explain this to the council.
Shepard is not good at hostage negotiation.
No. And then...
They just aren't.
No, they're not.
You know?
And then there was like, this isn't the full exchange, but this is like a truncated part of it. Bollock said, this is nothing you humans have done. This is nothing. You humans have done far worse to the Batarians. We've been forced into exile, forced to survive on what we can scrounge up. It's been like that for decades. Shepard, you attacked us first. When we hit back, you ran to the council. When they didn't give you what you wanted, you left their space. You have no one to blame for this but yourselves.
Here's what's crazy about this. That's like that. This is 100% the mentality, right?
Yes.
Is that they attack, but the Batarians attack first. Thus, any grievances they have are like void. But like the reason they attacked was because humans started colonizing territory near their territory. If that happened to America, America would invade.
If it happened to the Alliance, they would invade that territory. And in fact, what I found the most fascinating about the Batarians is like comparing that response to the response of the Turians and like to the presentation of the Turians. Because the Turians are like, well, we don't get along, we don't see eye to eye on everything, but they're mostly a good ally. But
we respect the hell
out of the Turians.
Yeah, we fought each other, but even then, we could tell they had the same desire for violent fascist rule that we do, and thus,
look, when their first response was to meeting a new alien species was, oh, we gotta genocide this. I gotta say, I admired them so goddamn much.
I felt a tear in my eye and thought, one day we could be allies. We're not so different, you and I.
We're not so different, you and I. I too dream of destroying my enemies. So
we both let Balak go because I don't know how you...
No. I don't know how you...
How you don't.
How you don't. I don't know how you try justifying that. Kate was the only one I kind of cared about because she was in the Bonnie Bedelia role, which is thankless. Her brother was killed, which was like a cutscene that we didn't talk about, but I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense to me that Shepard hates the Batarian.
Yes.
Right? Because in a lot of the backgrounds, it's pirates and slavers who are claimed to be funded by the Batarians, whether or not that's true, who attack either, like, we both did the colonist background, and that plus the Blitz, I believe, which means that, like, Shepard has lost a lot to pirates who they have been told their entire life are funded by the Batarians.
Yeah.
Like, again, I don't know, like, I think, as you point out, it's not particularly clear how honest that is to the situation, because it doesn't add up to, like, that doesn't add up to Batarians forced into terrorist action. You know what I mean? Because people do terrorist action, not to actually destroy a planet, but to make a message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or in the case of, like, this piracy slaver thing, it could literally be like, yeah, they've had sanctions on their planet and this is how they have to survive.
I mean, it not
has
even
been
clear
decades, so like, yeah, that could be the case.
In one of the side quests, you meet the person who does who was like the pirate leader in the Blitz.
Yes.
And it's just a Turian, I think.
It is. Originally, in the first Mass Effect, because of a glitch, it was a human, which made way less sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually got quotes from that side quest, if you want to talk about that now.
Yeah, let's talk about it now, because it's relevant, and that's one less thing to talk about during the side quest Mega Talk we'll be doing next episode.
Yes. Yeah, so, this was fun. Actually, I have a lot about this one, so, yeah, this will be, I think, a good ending point. So the war hero storyline. Shepard gets a message from Admiral Hackett. Something uncomfortable has come up. In the First Contact War, we fired a lot of espionage probes into Turian space. We've just received a mission complete burst from one of them. These probes were built in a hurry after First Contact. They have the self-destruct equivalent to the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. And these things have just been wandering mass relay networks since the war. So
yeah, no, that was a lot to put up with. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, when I took all of that in, I was like, holy shit. So we're just villains. I get that, like, I get that the bomb dropped on Hiroshima might not have the same impact on a starship or whatever, but like you can't tell what kind of ship will get into that. We'll get on to that. Ugh. But so yeah, you land on this planet and you go into a mine, which is just the generic mine that they have. And once you're deep inside of it, you discover the bomb, and you then hear a planned detonation that traps you, or traps Shepard. And then they suddenly get a message from a Turian who's like, Shepard, at last. And you have no idea who the hell this person is because like they haven't been mentioned or really even hinted at before. Who do you think runs the Terminus clan, Shepard? Thousands of pirates, slavers, criminals of every stripe? In most criminal organizations, it's the one recognized as most successful. 3 years ago, I was the strongest. I used my influence to assemble a fleet. We would drive your kind out of the verge. I was the one who failed. Failed because of you. Your damnable holding action. And then this person laughs because they're like, you won't survive. You pretty easily disarm the bomb because you either have like a bajillion Omnigel or you're good enough at the QTEs. You then just walk out of a different exit and like snipe him and his men from the top of a hill and then go down and collect your bounty. And that's the mission. But again, there's just some interesting framing of the Terminus systems as like utterly lawless and like they don't have any rulers. It's just pirate settlements. I'm like, how then, or why then is the council afraid of these systems? It's just a very confusing universe in some respects for me.
It's the thing we keep running into is like, all of the descriptions of it are slavers and
criminal organizations pirates. And like pirates and these groups that like can't actually sustain a population or like a potent enough political force to be a real problem for the council races. And then like when you go there, it's all people from the council races and it's presented as like, oh, these are the outlaws, but I'm like, but they're all from like the top council races. How do I know they're not all ops? Or like a mix of expats and ops? Because like nope. Again, this is all stuff from Mass Effect 2, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I mean,
as presented here, it makes kind of it's strange because you would expect to see more like Batarians or something it's truly Renegade.
And this side quest like bothered me because like except for this, like there is a version of playing this game where like this is the view of the Terminus systems from inside council space. You know? Like of course this is how the council and the council codex sees it. It just sucks when we actually meet a character from the Terminus systems and they are mustache trolling evil, you know?
Yeah, no, well that's
like so ridiculously and unrealistically, like just not, doesn't even feel like a real three-dimensional character, right? It's this idea, like, neither of these characters do, right? Neither the pirate king or whatever or Balak feel three-dimensional. They feel like they are scarecrows.
Yeah, they're strawmen for like this
Strawman was the word I was
sorry.
looking for. I don't know why I went to scarecrow instead of strawman.
It's okay. I wasn't sure what you were going for, but like, yeah, they are in some sense strong. They're very othered as characters. They don't have like a sense. It's not like Elias Halliot is like, you know how you think of us as like pirates and slavers. No, we have like a culture and stuff like there's still remnants of those rebel Turians from before they became the fascist hierarchy and like their culture and how he's proud of it. I don't know, something like that. I know that's corny and shitty, but like I'm just coming up with things off the top of my head.
I mean, honestly, I feel like with the Batarians, I mean, this is like we've talked a lot about like the war on terror, and I don't think it ended up in a final episode, but like we can save it for the, and I'd rather save this for the our final,
Yes.
like talking about the end of the game anyway. But like a lot of this game is about the war on terror, right? This is about you are a super cop who is like who is using like extra legal powers to prevent to respond to a terrorist act and to prevent a worse one from happening. And we'll get more into that later. But like this is the first time, like one of our problems with Saren is that Saren doesn't feel like we want Saren to have more of a purpose for why he's doing this, and we want to understand better like what the Geth get out of their relationship with the Reapers that lead to them, because we know that terrorism in real life doesn't happen in a vacuum. You know, it doesn't happen like just because, you know, because Islamic terrorists are really robots who just we can't coexist with. That's not why. That's not true. But like that's the analogy when you talk about the Geth as the analogy for the terrorists, right? Like, and so it's satisfying to not feel like the Geth are fully realized characters that have a motivation beyond it. And similarly, it's dissatisfying to like look at these people who are grieved by human colonization, and for them to just be like, well, you know, this is they don't actually, whatever they say, they're not acting in good faith, and thus we can discredit their viewpoints, or you know, because they're not coming to us with negotiations, they're doing terrorist action, which they did and were denied. They were like, it's Shepard presents this as the Batarians just attacked because that is what the because you know they're just evil, but like no, the Batarians went through the legal process and were denied by the council. And one of the things that like kind of comes across in this conversation with Balak is that like prior to the humans showing up, they were the humans on the scene. You know, they were the species that the Asari were looking at as like the other military force to bring in. But then when the humans show up, clearly with like superior firepowers, because the Batarians cannot attack humans directly, like the Asari favor changes.
Yeah.
From the Batarians to the humans.
Yeah. It's all stuff that I wish they would linger on, and they kind of allied often. It's disappointing. But yeah.
It just
I feel like there's a lot of context and culture that they could give to these other races that would like really complicate stuff, and they just never do in this game. At least I remember them doing it a little more in Mass Effect.
I think we'll
3.
find 2 and 3 are just, I think from my memory, more complex versions of this, and I think partly that's because Mass Effect 1, and I never would have guessed this until we sat down and replayed it, Mass Effect 1 is just a game like that is constantly asking itself the same question, which is how do you respond to something like 9/11 and see real change affected?
Yeah.
You know. But in none of these storylines is there the space for a different response other than military reaction. Military reaction is the assumed necessary response. And every decision you're making beyond that it's like has to incorporate it. And that's kind of in a way like what we have ended up with in real life, right? Like is that you can't present an idea that doesn't include military action to the problem of the Islamic Islamic terrorism.
Yes. You can't present non-military solutions to a lot of problems. A lot of things might not actually be our problem, maybe. But I don't know how much I want to get into a foreign policy discussion, mostly because it's getting to that time when E3 is
we're
coming
getting close
on.
up. Yeah, E3 is about to start again, and we're going to be seeing Starfield for the first
Yeah,
time. So you can go and see how many 9/11s are in that. I'm going to guess at least a dozen.
I'm not gonna actually watch this. I'm probably gonna maybe finally start my Ava Rebuild rewatch. Ugh.
That's a good use of time.
Yeah, that's a great use of time.
Or you could play, or in the hour I'm gone, you could play more Mass Effect. We could get through all of Mass Effect.
We could maybe get through all of Mass Effect today, but yeah, we'll see.
Finish the effect.
Finish the effect, the Mass Effect. All right. So maybe I'll see you shortly, Rob, and I'll see or talk to our listeners later.
In 7 days.
In 7 days. Please rate and review us.
So long as I don't get this episode out. Yeah, like I did the last one.
Please rate and review us.
Rate and review us
on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts app,
Apple
whatever,
Podcasts, or whatever podcast app you're listening
Stitcher.
on. I don't think we're on any others yet, but we'll get there.
Spotify,
eventually.
Bandcamp. I don't know about any of these.
I don't think we're not on any of these yet. But hopefully we will
make
be.
us a Reddit tab or Mass Reflect.
Oh God, make us. That would be amazing.
Come on, guys.
I don't know. Yeah. Look, that would be huge for us.
That would be huge for us.
That would be huge for us.
It would be even bigger for us when it gets shut down and we have to do interviews with Kotaku and Polygon.
Yeah, because for some reason we just have a shit ton of Nazis on there, and we're anti-fascist.
Well, no, it's a mix of dirtbag leftists who ironically hate listen to our podcast and or maybe unironically listen to our podcast. I don't know how they would react. And then also fascists who are there's so much genocide in this game that I never realized before.
But these two people pointed it out to me, and it makes me enjoy it so much.
Oh God! What a nightmare.
Mass Reflect.
Yeah, no, but do this. Do this for us.
Yeah.
Make
it'd be
the
amazing
world a worse place.
It'd be amazing because we're both leftists.
Yeah.
We're both
on the left. Yeah.
It'd be amazing if the leftists hated us, but Nazis loved us.
That would be that's my nightmare.
That's fine. That is awful. All right, next episode.
That's
we're talking about side quests.
Yeah, next episode is side quests.
We've played them all. We're gonna talk about them.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about how fucked up it is that side quests can't be completed after the main mission. It's the worst.
That is, and it's even weirder because in 2 and 3 they definitely can, especially 3. Because the ending line of that game, I don't know if this is true about the new ending, but it was in the original ending, is amazing, is like a setup line to excuse why you can go back in and play the DLC and side quests. It's a little girl who's learning from the adult who's just told her the entire trilogy of Mass Effect, and she goes, "Tell me more stories about the Shepherd."
That's because in the future, all communities are ruled over by terrifying immortal versions of Shepard, who keeps them at pre-industrial levels, and they are the only one who has access to spacefaring technology in the form of giant Reaper ships that they now command, which makes them a god amongst mortals.
Yep. All right. Well. Come back next episode for more stories of the Shepherd. We've been Mass Reflect.